Wake up, honey, the Oblivion remaster just dropped and Sheogorath looks fine as hell. He always looks fine as hell. He's Sheogorath, for crying out loud. Well, in honor of the very handsome Daedric Prince of Madness, I am going to revive a challenge I did around this time last year where I drew Hermaeus Mora in 10 different art styles. This time, we're just going to do 5 styles, because I want to take my time with all of them, make sure they're really good. Sheogorath isn't just the god of madness, but of creativity and inspiration, which can often come in big manic bursts. Burnout can lead you into the depths of despair, but when inspiration hits, you're back into the heights of mania. And it's that duality that defines Sheogorath. Contradictions, confusion, constipation from all that damn cheese he eats. Now, Sheogorath did threaten to rip out my intestines if I didn't do at least one portrait that he likes, so, and that would be a problem, because I have to go to work tomorrow. So let's cross our fingers that he actually likes any of these, and if not, I get some booze that I could bribe him with. First things first, I'm going to set myself up for failure by doing something I'm bad at. For a video, no less. I'm going to be doing some fully digital art. I did do a warm-up piece that I considered finishing, but I decided to scrap it and do something different. I did leave the warm-up footage in just for fun. In the actual final piece, I experimented with a few different oil paint brushes in Ibis paint. Nearly all of my art starts traditionally drawn. If I do any digital coloring, I will still have drawn and inked the piece by hand before scanning it and doing digital cleanup. Full digital is very tricky for me, even with a tablet that I'm physically drawing on with a stylus. I don't know what it is psychologically, but it's just such a weird process for me. I'll be leaning towards Sheogorath's look in the Oblivion remaster in honor of its release. I am personally very attached to his Skyrim look, because that was my first Sheogorath. So I usually lean more towards that when I draw him, but I love his yellow eyes from Oblivion, and I love his nice full beard in the remaster. It looks so good. But I also like giving him lighter gray hair. It's very close to white looking in Skyrim. And something that I often do that's just my own interpretation, I give him not quite a full handlebar mustache, but it's just very well styled. My high school Latin teacher had the absolute coolest mustache goatee combination. He kind of looked like this painting, but somehow even more stylish. Like, this guy wishes he had Mr. Wilton's mustache. I think Sheogorath's voice actor, Wes Johnson, should do that with his mustache. Comment down below if you think Wes Johnson should try a handlebar mustache. And speaking of Wes, this month he is teaming up with Fallout for Hope to raise funds in support of the Alzheimer's Association. It's a cause that I think is very well worth supporting, as Alzheimer's and dementia have affected so many families, my family included. And the ultimate goal of this video is to bring awareness to the campaign and to encourage people to donate if you're able. I've got a link in the description to my Tiltify page where you can donate directly to the cause. Many other people in Fallout for Hope are doing the same. Several of the art pieces that I'm making in this video will be available through that Tiltify link also. And if you're not able to donate, I totally understand. I'm just happy that you're tuning in. Also, shout out to Wes for his whiskey suggestions. Redbreast is on my hunting list. I putzed around with the background a lot on this one. Digital art's kind of a black hole when it comes to all the effects you can add. I'm half tempted to go back in and just do something really bizarre for fun. Alright, we are warmed up, so now we're going to jump into our second portrait, and this time we're going to do traditional art, which is where we will stay for the rest of the video. I'm actually going to be emulating one of my favorite artists in terms of line art. We are taking inspiration from R. Crumb. It's funny, but my two favorite artists in terms of inking, my two biggest influences, I would say, in terms of inking, are R. Crumb and Akira Toriyama. And they're kind of like opposites of each other. But Crumb has the kind of energy that I think very well fits Sheogorath, so that's why I'm picking his style. While working on this, I was listening to an audiobook of Finnegan's Wake, and I'm going to link that playlist below because if you're like me and you tried to read Finnegan's Wake in the past and found the writing impenetrable, it's actually delightful to listen to. Do I understand it any better? I wouldn't use the word understand, but I definitely am enjoying this reader. He is definitely having fun with this. It got me thinking about the ways that literature and art are taught in schools and how sometimes I think we're given this misguided impression that a lot of these great writers and artists who made these very strange works were doing so with just great seriousness and a total lack of irony. I just recently heard a theory that maybe we should consider more of Shakespeare's tragedies to actually be comedies, and maybe he was just a weirdo and he thought death was funny. I mean, not even a weirdo, that's not the right word, but just had a really dark sense of humor. But back on the subject of Crumb, this was really fun to work on. I kept my pencils very light because the magic is all going to be in the inking. The pencils are just for me to get my proportions right, get the general idea of where I'm going. And I used a trio of fountain pens with different nib thicknesses because they're cool, and you will be at least 40% cooler if you use fountain pens. If you collect a lot of different colored inks, I would definitely recommend getting a glass pen because they're very easy to use and they're very easy to clean. You can use a whole rainbow of inks very easily. I pretty much always use black in my art, but I do write with a lot of different colored inks in my journal. And here we have finished our crummiest Sheogorath. I do love how this turned out. I'm super happy with this. So this next style is going to be very fun. It is also going to be fairly difficult as it departs from my own style quite a bit. I think it's perfect for Sheogorath, though. We are going to be emulating Junko Mizuno, who is a very, very cool artist. I definitely recommend you look her up. As with Sheogorath himself, her art is full of duality. It's very cute stylistically while also being very dark and creepy thematically. And she'll also combine relatively simple character designs with a lot of very ornate details. I have on multiple occasions heard her style described as the Powerpuff Girls on acid. I was thinking this was going to be kind of interesting to do since I don't see Mizuno draw men very often. I wanted Sheo to still look fairly masculine, but honestly it might not matter too much here. He's got that luscious and manly beard after all. What I do see her draw a lot is food, and she's put on several food-themed art shows called Food Obsession. And I'm a big fan of food as like a concept. And Sheogorath is a big fan of food also, so that became the theme for this piece. Sheo's got all his favorite yummy treats. He's got his beloved brain pie. I did find I was second guessing myself a lot. I went back and forth on things. You'll notice I change where Sheogorath is looking a few times. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. At some point he was facing directly ahead at the viewer. And then I decided, no, he doesn't care about us. He's looking at the food. Which, actually, I'm going to let you guys in on a little bit of a secret. When filming videos, I actually do pause the recordings fairly often to just sit and ponder. Or if I'm just not super confident on what I'm doing, I'll just turn the camera off a little bit. It's like you get the added psychological pressure of the camera, even though it really doesn't matter. Especially when I speed these up so much, it's like, it doesn't matter. But sometimes in the moment, it's like, you know, I'm just going to pause, see how this works. I did do a little bit entirely off of camera just due to battery reasons. For the most part, it was just going through and adding to the line art. It is funny, but just a really clean and simple art style. That is where my confidence faltered the most. As I was doing research for this video, I learned a lot more about Junko Mizuno as an artist and as a person, and I love that she's very fond of toys and toy collecting. I already knew that she's had a lot of toys that she's designed herself, but toys in general are very inspiring to her, and she has them all over her art studio. I also have a lot of toys and figures on my shelves that I've amassed over the years, some of which I've literally found in bushes or on the beach. I think Sheogorath probably loves toys and play sets. He and the rest of the Daedric princes, they'd like anything that's small and malleable that they can control and manipulate, which probably Sheogorath breaks a lot of his toys. For the colors on this piece, I went with a more muted pastel color scheme. I used a variety of alcohol markers. I actually used some colored pencil. And I did some finishing details with a gold gel pen. And this ended up looking so good considering how many times I doubted myself in the process. I really want to do more art in the future inspired by Junko Mizuno since I really love her style. It's so fun and it's so cute in contrast to the creepier elements. And it's really fun to do something different than what you normally make. Well, all that food made me pretty hungry, and I know just what will hit the spot. How about a delicious, open-faced Sheogorath? What's that blue stuff on the bread? Oh, that's just blueberry mayonnaise. It's an old family recipe. Okay, but in all seriousness, the blueberry mayo wasn't very good. I don't even think that's the grossest thing I've ever made in a kitchen. Actually, the first time I made a pumpkin spice latte when I was a barista, that was horrible. That was an actual hate crime against coffee. Well, back on track. Next, I want to do something very different. I want to make a lovely collage. I do little collages in my journals fairly often. I actually did a Sheogorath collage fairly recently. This one was very loosely planned in terms of what shapes I was going for and what the layout would be, but I think a lot of the fun of collaging, for me anyway, is to be fairly spontaneous. Usually I'll have a sticker or some specific thing that's inspiring the piece and I'll jump off of that. But mostly I'm just rummaging through my supplies to see what kind of colors, what kind of textures look fun. I tend to heavily associate Sheogorath with natural forms, with plants and flowers, things that are both beautiful and aesthetic, but also can be very wild and chaotic. Sheogorath is, of course, the altered form, altered ego, whatever you want to describe it as, of the Daedric prince Jigalag, who's associated with order, and his shapes and imagery is all hard, geometric, mathematical forms. But somewhere in the chaos of nature, there is logic and there is geometry. So many plants and natural things like shells, for example, grow with mathematical precision and literally follow the golden ratio. So sometimes there is order in chaos, and Jigalag is always a little present in Sheogorath and vice versa. Somewhere in here you'll see me switch glue colors. The purple glue was fun until it showed through something, which it ended up being fine, and I don't think you can see it at all in the end result, but as soon as I had the big blob of purple, it was like, let's switch. But here is our beautiful collage. There's a few color choices I wish I had made differently. I wish I had some better contrast in some spots. I think this was very fun to do, and I am very happy with the end result. Last but not least, I'm going to be going pretty hard. I am doing a full acrylic painting, and I wildly underestimated how long this was going to take. So for the sketch, as I'll call it, I'm using a water-soluble pen where if I want to fix any mistakes, I can just take a wet paintbrush and basically brush any lines away. This is a lot better than doing your sketch in pencil and potentially having to erase your canvas, which is kind of a pain, or having your pencil sketch show through when you're painting over it. You can also do this with heavily diluted paint as well, especially if you use oils, because oils are very, very easy to wipe off. Today we're working with acrylic, which is nowhere near as forgiving as oils, and I have a bit of a hard time with, but this ended up having a surprisingly good final result. Going in, my original plan was to experiment with a technique where you paint in black and white to get the tones worked out, and then you go on top of the grayscale with your actual colors. At this point, I was running on a very strict time frame. I had been way behind schedule for basically the entire process, so I decided to jump straight into the finished colors, and I'm very happy that I did that. I am using black to start though, since I have some solid black areas. I am still kind of experimenting specifically with this particular set of colors for the skin. I lean very heavily on pre-mixed browns and tans and peachy colors for skin. Actually, I lean heavily on pre-mixed colors in general, and I'm trying to not do that, trying to get better at mixing. And so I am still using like brown peachy colors. I'm using raw umber, portrait pink, and unbleached titanium, but I'm mixing them with blue and magenta also. And I think this ended up as a really cool result. I also normally would do like an underpainting, a really light wash of colors below my actual full colors. Mostly I do that so I don't have just like little white spots from a canvas showing through. I don't know, I did different things because of time constraints, and it actually turned out really well. Sometimes pressure actually is the secret ingredient. I'm also filming the actual painting differently to conserve my phone battery, and so I'm not sitting in an uncomfortable position, and so I can hold my canvas in any number of ways as I'm painting. This took like 8 sessions to do, and it was all around my work schedule, which is pretty hectic right now. There were plenty of days where it's like, I'm gonna paint before work, I'm gonna paint after work. Also, at one point, I was watching a live stream on my tablet and then using my phone for reference pictures rather than using that for filming. Shout out to P. Caspery. Okay, so you know how earlier in the video I said that Redbreast Irish whiskey was on my hunting list? I really was going to behave myself this month. I was going to buy cheaper. I had the bottle of Johnnie Walker Black Label in my hand, and then I saw this. In my defense, it was on sale. That's going to be a special occasion kind of whiskey. That's not your everyday drinking, but I think Sheogorath is a special occasion. Or at least bribing Sheogorath to not rip my intestines out is a very good occasion. Alright, that was damn tasty whiskey. That was exactly what I needed. That was very smooth, almost buttery. It's like a big old bowl of brown sugar oatmeal. Almost like fruitcake, but in a non-disgusting way. Oh man, that's gonna be dangerous. Back to painting. The dagger in Sheogorath's head is a reference to the King of Hearts playing card. I've been doing like a lot of little practice paintings with playing cards as a theme throughout them. It was partly because of that previous video I did where I did a portrait of Lemmy of Motorhead, and so I was kind of using the Ace of Spades as a theme in some art, and so I decided to carry it on over here, which in Skyrim there's like a whole scrapped section to Sheogorath's quest line. It's actually super extensive. But they had what looks like they were trying to put a card game in as part of the quest, as like a little mini game thing. And I've actually done a couple pieces of art already where I have Sheogorath with like the Joker playing card. What I didn't remember until I was pretty far along on the painting is that Sheogorath is carrying a dagger in Skyrim. He's got an iron dagger slung at his hip. So this actually all came together really well. Alright, so here is a look at my progress right now. I am about to start my 6th work session. I am gonna try really hard to make it my last work session because I am totally running out of time. So I'm gonna need to do some pretty good work today. I am very, very happy with how the hands are turning out. I've kind of surprised myself with how much I like how this skin tone in general is working. But really, all I need to do, this hand needs more work, definitely not enough is finished up here. I got this whole other hand, and then I've got the dagger. I gotta finish his hair and his beard, and I've got all this foliage. I think I'm gonna add some more in. I don't think there's quite enough going on. And then this like gauntlet thing he's got on, I kind of want to add more eyes back here. That is going to be very dependent on how much time I have left. Which, worst case scenario, I still would have a little bit of time to paint tomorrow, but ideally I do finish today and I can start doing the video editing over the next couple days. But enough talking, let's get on to that hopefully last work session.
Oh, I have a Claudia. She's come to help me paint. Thank you, pretty girl.
Okay, so it is the morning of June 27th. I am not making good time here, and I have approximately less than 30 minutes before I leave to go to work, but I might be able to get just a tiny bit done on the dagger, because that is just bugging the hell out of me. There's a few other things that do need to be painted. I will be able to paint a little bit tonight also, but I think that at that point, when I go to bed tonight, I have to call the painting finished because I am running out of time. I have to just make my peace with Sheogorath. If he disembowels me, he disembowels me. Alright, so it's the next morning. I am calling it finished. I went until about 10 o'clock last night, and that, for me, like 10 o'clock is when my brain is no longer functioning. I'm not making good art decisions. I am officially calling this finished. There are places where I could definitely go in and get a little more refined. There's some spots that weren't painted like super fantastically well, but at this point, since this is a fundraising video, I want to get the video out before the end of the month where the main fundraising events are actually happening, because there's being fashionably late, and then there's like stumbling in 2 hours late, unwashed, hungover, vomiting on the tablecloth. That's kind of this painting in a nutshell. But in seriousness, I want to thank Fallout for Hope for all the fundraising they've been doing this month for the Alzheimer's Association. Everybody has been working very hard. I definitely want to thank Wes Johnson for all he does for the cause, and I also want to thank him for all the nice comments that he has made on my art, and for sharing the painting progress photos in his stories on Instagram, because I've been sharing some snippets of what's going on online. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this adventure we have been on today, and please check out the description in the video below for my Tiltify donation page where you can actually buy this painting. You can have this just, you know, in your house, nice conversation piece. The conversation might just be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You can actually get a few other of the pieces that I made in this video also. So again, thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.